Hey everybody, before we jump into the episode, just had to give a little disclaimer here. First, let me apologize for my voice. As I'm recording this, I'm a little sick. Winter has not been kind to me. Anyway, speaking of my voice, we had a bit of a technical hiccup during the recording of this episode. The local audio of my mic did not save. Fortunately, I was able to use a backup cloud recording thanks to Squadcast, the podcast platform that we use. Big shout out to them. They're great. Anyway, so just want to give you guys a little heads up in case you're wondering why I sound a bit like Kermit and Gonzo in this episode, and probably like I do now. Yeah, so anyway, I hope you enjoy the first of 2 episodes this month celebrating the work of the legendary Tom Savini. So yeah, take it away, guys.
Well, guys, I saw the new Scream last night. I don't know, I liked it pretty good, but I don't know, it's kind of unrealistic these days. I mean, who's getting phone calls from people? Oh, sorry, guys. Phone's ringing. Sorry, this is so unprofessional. I'm just gonna take this real quick. Hello. Yes. My favorite scary movie.
Ooh. I think his car insurance expired, his warranty for his vehicle.
Yeah. I'm going to have to get that fixed next week. It's weird. That's my security question for this is, what's your favorite scary movie? Guys, I'd prefer if you didn't hear this. Oh, I'm going to die. Well, and block. That was
what happens when the warranty expires, yeah.
Yeah, these guys are not messing around these days.
That wasn't Tom Savini, was it?
Oh, shit. Guys, I think I just messed up.
We are here to talk about Tom Savini.
Unfortunately, we're not going to have him on the podcast like we thought we would, because I blocked his number.
I wish.
Gosh dang it, Kris.
This is like when we booked Tom Holland and got fucking Spider-Man instead.
Ugh. Just the worst.
Welcome to another miserable podcast, Horror Decomposed. My name is Zach. Joining me today, as always, the Criterion Kid, Kris Pistol.
Hello, Mr. Potter. I don't know where that came from.
Happy Scream weekend, Kris.
Yay! Scream weekend. You know, everybody's making their Scream ranked lists on Letterboxd and posting them, and I just feel like it's pretty irrelevant because, as we all know, number 1 is Scream, 1996 with a bullet. And after that, I feel like you could just jumble any of them up, and it's pretty much just like they're all fun, they're all equally entertaining. So just irrelevance all over the place.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, unless you're putting Scream 2 as number 1, then you have my attention, sir.
Casey, also with us today, Professor Casey.
Hey.
He tuned out majorly because it's not only is it Scream weekend, but there's an animated movie in theaters called Mummies. So this is just Casey's favorite.
Yeah, I think it's in theater. Let's be honest here. It's probably playing in 1, like Mummies deserve.
I was like, Casey, look what's out right now.
Casey loves horror, but Scream was a franchise that started when he was already old and cynical, so he doesn't care for it.
Yeah.
I mean, shit. It was what, 96?
Yeah. You were like,
what, 35
I was
16, then? Man. I was fucking 16. I hated the world.
The Oscars are also tomorrow. Who do you guys have money on?
I'm not even paying attention, dude.
Yeah, I figured.
I think Barbarian's gonna take it all. You know.
I fucking hope so.
Best picture, best actor. Everything.
Best milking scene.
Can we talk about how Jordan Peele wasn't nominated for shit this year and it fucking sucks?
He should have been. Nope, should have definitely gotten some nominations.
Bullshit.
Come on, dude.
It really should have.
Come on.
Cinematography. Come on.
I'm just gonna. This is a hard thing to say. Jamie Lee Curtis, you're fantastic. But that nomination,
Halloween should cancel.
I have a lot of questions.
It's a lifetime nomination. Let's be honest.
It is. I mean, I love Jamie Lee Curtis. Stephanie Shu should be getting wins over her in that category, and alongside the other amazing women that are nominated in that category. But if she's like getting a nomination, why is fuck, I can't even remember his name from Nope. Daniel
Daniel Kaluuya.
Kaluuya. Why is he not getting
Yeah,
nominated?
it's a
You know,
bunch of
like
bullshit.
you think of stuff
And,
like that.
and also, he wasn't in Halloween Ends, so
And really, like,
Well,
I mean,
it's-
Mia Goth, and was phenomenal.
Welcome to our
And,
horror is snubbed at the Oscars
yeah,
once again
so-
podcast, where we talk
Yeah.
about.
and the girl from the Black Phone. What the fuck? She was so good.
Yeah.
Okay.
you gotta
with
remember that the people in the Academy are your grandparents' age and would be horrified by the swearing from the girl in the black phone.
It's true.
And yeah, that little girl needs a soap in her mouth. But we're not here to talk about any of this. We're here to talk about the greatest ? One of the greatest. I don't think he would call himself the greatest. That's the thing. He'd probably call Dick Smith the greatest. One of the greatest special effects makeup artists in the world, all time, all my life. Tom Savini. Definitely the greatest one I've ever met in person. Tom Savini. So this is one of our roulette categories. I went in there and I put like every dope effects guy I could think of on there. And except for Screaming Mad George, Zach beat me to that one. But see, the thing is, though, is we talk about Savini movies on here a lot. We've even done commentary for one. If you go back and listen to Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter, Zach talks about lamps the whole fucking time, but we get to talk about some cool effects once in a while. Yeah.
Someone's got to talk about the lamps, Casey, and I'm happy to take up that mantle.
Savini is also like the most visible of our, I feel like, of our horror makeup artists. He's the one who has acted on the side a lot, so everybody kind of knows who he is and knows what he looks like. Like, I love Rob Bottin's work. Couldn't tell you what the man looks like.
Right. And though the movie we watched today does have another very famous makeup artist acting in it right now. Yes, Greg Nicotero's in this. Yeah, we are okay, we're not going to talk about The Burning. So we've already talked about The Burning a lot. We're not going to talk about Friday the 13th part 1 or 4 today. Talked about those. Creepshow we've talked about. We've talked about a lot of Savini work on this show, but we haven't really gone in depth on any of his zombie stuff. And so we decided to start Savini Month by talking about what he considers his best work, Day of the Dead.
Well, I just wanted to ask you guys, what was your like introduction to Tom Savini, since this is Tom Savini Month? Like, how did you guys first hear of Tom Savini or introduced to him, be it his acting work or his makeup effect work?
Well, shit, man, I used to read Fangoria from when I was like 7 years old, so probably there.
Okay, Chris?
It was probably like documentaries, like when I first started watching behind the scenes of like Friday the 13th or some of these like horror. I remember like a bunch of horror docs, watching those like late high school and kind of learning the behind the scenes elements of them and being like, oh, Tom Savini, he's done a lot. He's like the name that comes up the most, because he's like got the personality behind the talent as well. So he's probably the most interviewed of any of the makeup artists. There's just like hours and hours of his interviews, of him breaking down how he does stuff, like all of the innovations and different cool techniques. He's a magician who loves showing his tricks,
Yeah.
to teach the youngins how to do it.
If you are interested in that kind of thing, not only does he have a very prolific school, check out the books he did, Grand Illusions. They're fucking amazing. You can actually get them in one book now, $30, paperback, Amazon. They're great. I cannot recommend them enough. I would also say get as much as you can by Dick Smith as well if you're interested in this. But I feel like Tom Savini's Grand Illusions books are the spiritual successor to Dick Smith's makeup books, the Dick Smith's Do-It-Yourself Monster Makeup. I mean, it's a little bit more for kids on his, and Savini's a lot more gory, but it's even to the point where Dick Smith does the foreword for Tom Savini's book. So it's kind of like the next step. So go from like Dick Smith's do-it-yourself monster makeup. It's kind of hard to get now. It's an expensive book, but it is worth it. And then go on to Tom Savini's. And Rick Baker has one, but I have not read it yet because it is a $250 hardcore collector edition hardcover set of 2 books. I think you can get it for maybe like you can get it for $150 on Amazon. But very, very expensive, the Rick Baker ones. So Savini, how about you, Zach?
Oh, 100% my introduction to Tom Savini was through acting in From Dusk Till Dawn, but I think he did the makeups in From Dusk Till Dawn as well, right? Or certainly he helped with them, I imagine.
K&B, I know, were the studio behind it, I believe.
He must have had some contributions with that, though.
Tarantino basically wrote the script so that K&B could get work, essentially. Could show off their stuff.
And the N in K&B is Greg Nicotero.
Mm-hmm.
Who is in the movie we're talking about today, Day of the Dead. Romero has also called it his best work. So both Savini and Romero have been on record to call this their best work.
Yeah.
And I feel that's a feat because this movie got fucked when it was in production. I don't know if you guys have heard about this.
No, so let's get into it. This is our feature scare today, celebrating the work of Tom Savini. Today, we are talking about Day of the Dead.
Dios de los Muertos.
He created the most frightening film ever made. Then, he took his unique vision of terror one step further. Now, George A. Romero takes us out of the night, beyond the dawn, and into the darkest day of horror the world has ever known. Day of the Dead.
Yes. This movie got released unrated. And so a lot of movie theaters wouldn't carry unrated movies at the time because it was essentially saying, hey, this is an X-rated movie for violence. And the production company cut the budget in half before they could start filming because of that decision. And I'm sure they made more than enough back on video. This was a very popular rental. But them losing the budget meant that this movie was going to be compromised. A lot of people say that the script originally was more like half this movie, half of Land of the Dead, where it's more of a big scale, like city stuff going on. I didn't really super enjoy Land of the Dead, especially compared to this film. So
I liked it at the time, but I don't remember much about it at all.
I really actually need to revisit those last 3 of the Dead movies because I just don't remember them whatsoever.
I didn't see Diary and I have not seen Survival.
Have you seen Diarrhea of the Dead?
Is that a trauma picture?
No, but it will be the second they listen to this podcast.
I can't believe that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist.
Rewatching Day of the Dead, I forgot how much this is like. It really feels like a zombie riff on The Thing. They're very similar movies in a lot of ways because they both revolve around like a team of individuals. They're in a very isolated situation. You have researchers in Antarctica. You have like soldiers and scientists in this bunker beneath the city, and so. And they're dealing with a horror threat, zombies and then this alien parasite. So there's, lots of paranoia, they definitely have a lot of similarities. Obviously different, but I mean, I don't know. They just remind me a lot of each other. And I wonder if Romero was at all influenced by like The Thing, or at least that kind of the themes of The Thing when making this, because they are, I feel like they're cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways.
That's interesting. I didn't think about the thing at all while watching this. I don't know what I thought about while watching this. This is like such an amazing movie. Like I love this movie so much.
Yeah.
Well, you just have like all these personalities pit against each other. There's lots of tension, and obviously, like the parasite creates most of the tension in the thing. Here, the zombies are there, but it's the soldiers are upset that the scientists are, they're
Right.
losing members of their team, and the scientists are not getting any answers. You got Dr. Frankenstein, who's just doing all these experiments and trying to,
Poor Dr.
bring the
Frankenstein.
humanity and back into these zombies instead of finding a cure. And it's like, what are we doing this for? And
Sarah's kind of in that boat also.
Yeah, except in the thing, there's, you're almost like nobody's really, you kind of get where everybody's coming from. But in this, there's clearly like the chill people and the assholes. And I think that's the most interesting thing about this movie is that this is the first of the Dead movie that takes place like well after, when Night of the Living Dead is dealing with like what happens when the zombie apocalypse happens, like that first day, what happens on day one, essentially. Dawn of the Dead is like what happens that the first week, at the end of the first week. And this is like clearly been like months and months into an apocalypse to where like the last few people are probably left on Earth. And what happens when the only people left on Earth is you and the assholes?
Yeah.
Like who's to be more feared here, the zombies or the fucking morons with guns?
Yeah, and I would feel I feel like Johnny's the only sane person in this movie at times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love John the pilot. Great character.
Flyboy rules. But I love that Captain Rhodes. He's just like in a cold hard sweat throughout this entire movie. Like from like his first line.
Okay.
He is fully clenched.
So here's the reason, and someone else noticed this. I forgot where I read this, but his patches say that he's just a reservist, and now he's in charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see
Makes sense.
you see the group of guys he's in command of. Probably not the top soldiers. May just be. I mean, they said everything's thrown together, right? So it might be like his guys are thrown together too. And oh gosh, yeah. He's in over
he's like
his
the
head.
lowest of the low who's now in charge because he's just the last one left.
Again, no sympathy for Rhodes because he does say a lot of really rapey shit. And I mean, he's pretty well and he's racist as fuck.
Yeah, and gets a lot of enjoyment out of just being evil.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like yeah, some people are like, is he really a sympathetic character? And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What is wrong with you as a human being?
No.
Yeah. So, all right, this has some really cool stuff. I actually went through and took notes, effect shot by effect shot. It's actually less than you would think because a lot of this is about the human drama. There's a lot of space between any sequences that need effects work.
No, I mean, like the first hour, there really isn't a lot of like human zombie conflict. I mean, there's that like, overarching conflict about, what do we do with the zombies and we have to fend them off and catch them for experiments. But like, no one's getting eaten. It doesn't happen until an hour into the movie.
Right.
So
I don't know. What did you guys think of our opening zombie, Dr. Tongue, as he's been called by merchandise?
He's amazing.
one of the greatest zombies of all time. Yeah, I was going to tell you, like Trick or Treat has made a mask of him.
Yeah.
Which I think is sold out in a lot of places.
I love the whole opening of this movie, how it's like, this deserted city and the music is fantastic. The sampled in the Gorillaz song, which is great. Yeah, it's just such a great mood for the rest of the movie. This is like the most like nihilistic of the zombie movie of the originals. I feel like, even though it may or may not have a happy ending. I guess we'll get to that when we get to that.
Dr. Tongue's pretty cool. Like, he's a puppet. He's not a person in a mask.
Yeah, it was armed by a bunch of different people, and it's. I think Nicotero's like referenced him like on The Walking Dead before with like makeups and stuff, and Yeah, it's just really impressive work from Savini and his team. And God, man.
There are some other puppets slash radio controlled devices that don't land
Oh,
as
there definitely
much,
are.
like Nicotero's head later on. But we start to see in the beginning like the different walks of life zombies, which is always fun. We get to see a zombie majorette in this first scene, and we get to see just kind of like random people in their occupational gear that there's nothing worse than dying at work, right? Like that would be terrible. But it looks like a lot of these people did. We also get to see a zombie alligator question mark. I don't know if it's just supposed to be an alligator or if it's a zombie alligator. I do like that they went out of their way to
I didn't even
try
think
to
about that.
disguise the taping of his mouth by making it some kind of creepy fabric.
I was curious, is this a zombie gator or is it just a gator that was chilling with some zombies?
Seemed like it was kind of cool to the people. Never tried to eat them. And none of the zombies try to eat each other, so that might lean towards it being a zombie. But it's a very long time. I mean, we do have a cool nightmare sequence before this with the hands breaking through the walls and all that. But then it becomes a very, very long time before we see more of Savini's work. And when we do, it's when we start seeing kind of the trapped underground zombies, which I think look cool, but they seem kind of run of the mill, like regular zombies. Nothing really stands out about them other than the makeup's pretty
Yeah.
impeccable.
I was gonna say that I feel like the quality of the makeup depends on how much light is being used on the zombies. If it's like, oh, it's gonna be dark as shit, we don't really need to put that much gore on them, probably.
He also never seems to cheap out and just throw a mask on somebody, which we see a lot in zombie movies when they're a little farther away from the camera. It does seem like these are all like fully realized makeups. And cool thing is though, like they're filming down in this mine. It's a real fucking mine. So I thought it was a set. It looks like a set. They couldn't afford a set. And apparently this mine fucked with all their equipment and the makeup because it was super humid down there. So I think maybe we could have got some more elaborate makeup down there if it wasn't possibly peeling off of the actors or having some kinds of problems down there. But it's pretty cool. We get to see the most horrific zombies though, and the most horrific gore and all that stuff once we go into Dr. Frankenstein's lab. And I think that's an important kind of tie into the theme of people being so inhuman to each other in this movie, and exploring that humans become real pieces of shit in times of trauma.
Well, the pieces of shit people do, for sure.
Yeah. The gore, the most egregious gore that we see to start the movie is inflicted by humans. It is Dr. Frankenstein in his lab. I mean, the man's covered in blood the second you meet him. But
Yeah, I mean, we find out he's like feeding like the soldiers that have passed on to like his zombie experiments and stuff, and
right.
which does not sit well with Rose.
He's never not covered in blood. Even when he comes down to eat, he is just like his hands are just caked in blood. And he don't give a shit.
Is
And
there
to be
any
fair, I
food?
think this is like, you understand why Rhodes would be upset about that. Like, you're feeding my dead men to these zombies. You're not honoring them. Like, you know.
Some pretty good effects though in his lab in general, like the dead sergeant that is the brain.
Just the brain. Yeah,
Looks
just
pretty
his brain.
good. Plus we get the full dissection of the zombie that sits up and spills its guts all over the floor.
That might be my favorite effect in the movie.
Yeah.
Love
It's so
it.
gnarly. It's so
And
gross.
it works so great that they do it twice, because there's that nightmare sequence where the same thing happens to Miguel,
Oh yeah.
and it looks great, and it's just building a big cavity in the body, putting some guts in it, having it sit on top of your regular body. I
think this is like something we can talk about, like Savini's approach to like practical effects makeup and stuff, because he kind of he always looked at it from like a magic perspective. When he was, I highly recommend checking out the Smoke and Mirrors,
Yeah.
the Tom Savini story documentary. He like traveled with like a traveling like magic show as a kid. Like he dressed as Dracula in the audience. He has a great story about how they would like pick a different kid to play Dracula every time. But anytime they picked someone, the kid wouldn't like the monsters wouldn't come out or do anything. So he like dressed as Dracula in a cape and like scared some kids. And they're like, this kid rules. And so like, you want a job? And so he got a job as Dracula in the stage
And
show.
it's
And
like,
he's
where
already
are
into
these
makeups
shows
and
now?
stuff. But yeah, it's amazing. But he talks about how he just like saw special effects as like an illusion, and so trying to find the like solution to create these illusions in film with his makeups. And so you see that you with the brain and stuff that he's creating, and just all these different Dr. Tongue and things like that. Even like there's a scene later on where I believe it's the radio operator McDermott is like just shoveling a zombie, and you see the shovel go through the zombie head, but like, how did you get it to look like the shovel went through this zombie head? Like it's an illusion.
You cut a hole in the shovel.
Yeah, but it looks so realistic, and you see like that kind of Savini's approach is finding all these clever mechanisms and ways to craft these images, and it's really really impressive.
Yeah, I do love that scene specifically. So you get the cut up shovel going through the head, and then they very quickly cut to the head getting ripped in half, and then landing upside down to where it's like a remote control thing with the eyes switching, which is great.
Yeah, it's great.
A little bit of comedy introduced into the movie. There's some actual funny stuff in this film. It's just kind of peppered in there, and good stuff.
Of course, we're talking about Dr. Frankenstein, and every Frankenstein has to have his monster, and we have Bub. One of the greatest zombies ever. And obviously a nod to Frankenstein's monster because he looks like Frankenstein's monster.
Bub got a poor thing out of Melody. If you can get a poor thing out of Melody, then, you're a sympathetic character.
He does remind me of the Frankenstein monster makeup a bit from the Monster Squad in some respects.
Yeah. The performance is kind of similar too.
Yeah.
But very expressive makeup. Like they could have gone a lot of different ways with that, and they went with something that can get a performance out of Howard Sherman. And man, he is fucking great in this movie.
Yeah, he's like the zombie.
Yeah,
like when you just think of the zombie, like if you think of just the most iconic zombie, it's probably him.
And it's him tripping balls to Ode to Joy that is like one of the best performances.
And yeah, I mean, and I think that's like Savini's top tier make. I mean, as great as like all the Bloody and Dr. Tongue makeups are. I mean, Bub is just such a polished, prosthetic, and I mean, hats off there. It's fantastic.
Has anyone made the alternative of Bub listening to different music and having the same reaction? Because that needs to be a thing.
I think it used to be a meme for a little while. I remember some people doing it. Yeah.
Okay.
Back when Tube Dubber was a thing, you could kind of like throw anything in there.
Yeah.
It worked pretty great.
That's just a kind of a common trope in horror, is to like a friendly monster. Like, here, listen to some music. And they do that in the Monster Squad with Frankenstein as well. Like, and he's just like, bogus.
If you like good music, man, then you're cool.
You have a Bigfoot caveman friend. Like, that's just what you do, is like, here's some music, man. Check out these tunes. But I think there's always, there's just a great conflict throughout this movie. You have Laura Cardille, Sarah, she has like a boyfriend played by Anthony DeLeo Jr. Private Miguel. He's a soldier, and he has severe PTSD and keeps like just fucking up everything, and can like, they're trying to harness some zombies, and he drops like the stick with the hook on it, and he's just like nearly cost someone their life initially.
His arc is fucking shit up.
To the point where you're just kind of like, man, fuck this dude. Like, we never get to see him before he has collapsed mentally, so he's just acting like a dick from minute one, and you're like, man, fuck this guy.
And he does not sacrifice himself to get Rhodes and the other guys. He does not know that the rest of them are about to escape. He was going to kill everyone. Okay.
Yeah, he's just trying to kill everybody. He's just like, fuck everyone, fuck everything.
Yeah, but
we all deserve to die.
His arm chopping is a great effect. Jesus Christ.
That's I think the best thing this movie does is like, you see everyone's like different mental state. You have him who's on a severe end of the scale with PTSD. You have Rhodes and his comrades like Private Walter Steele who should be a wrestler, and then you have Flyboy and McDermott and Sarah Bowman, who are like on the rational side of things, along with another scientist there who are trying to like earnestly figure things out and make this work. And it's just all these different personalities.
Then we have our pilot and his drunken Irishman friends, who, when Roger Ebert, that guy, reviewed this movie, shit on his fake Irish accent, and motherfucker's really Irish.
Well,
I thought it sounded fine. I mean, I didn't notice.
I'm gonna speak up for a second. I don't know. I thought it sounded a little muddled at times. I mean, I know it's real, but it almost sounded like he was trying to hide it at first. Because I was halfway through the movie, we were like, "Is he Irish? What's that accent?"
I mean, it's the least of that guy's problems. I cannot watch this movie and not see Mr. Bean every time that guy's on screen.
He does look like Rowan Atkinson.
Yeah,
this is true.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know. I didn't even
What I want to
notice
know
his
is
Irish-
that
like it didn't even register with me.
What I want to know is, did Rhodes and the other guys know that they just have like a sweet ass like trailer just like away from everybody else
Yeah.
with like seemingly most of the alcohol? Because it seems like they would be like, "Oh hell no, y'all don't get these digs. We get these digs."
I mean, those guys are growing weed outside, though, so,
It's true.
They called it the Ritz, right?
Yeah.
The Ritz. I need those ice cream, like those red, green, white ice cream lights. I think they were ice cream cones or something. That's what they look like. They had hung up. Those are dope.
Probably stolen from an Italian ice cream place.
When I get a house, I'm just gonna make a room that's like the Ritz. That's just like a little like island hideaway.
Cool. I'm gonna make Dr. Frankenstein's lab.
They raided the
man.
shopping mall before the Dawn of the Dead crew got there. and took
I
everything
do
from-
like that he said all the malls are closed now.
Yeah,
like,
I understood
aw.
that reference.
So it's such a beautiful thing because okay, yeah, one thing the mall was in Philadelphia. This is spread to Florida now. And I think it also explains if we have any listeners in Florida, I'm sorry, but you know what you're like.
You know what
I think it
you're
explains
like.
how some of these people are, okay? Just saying.
I live in a shithole state, and I accept it.
Does this take place in Florida?
Yes.
Day of the Dead?
Yes.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah, there's a
That
big
makes
ass
sense.
map of Florida, like in their meeting room.
I guess I've never thought about it, but do Romero's films, are they all in the same like zombie universe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a
They
sequel.
are? Okay.
Yeah.
You see the Tom Savini guy from Dawn of the Dead. He shows up in like Land of the Dead.
Yeah.
Oh.
As a zombie.
Oh, right. That's right. I
Yes.
think I heard about that.
And he got an action figure out of it. There's actually some pretty sick Land of the Dead action figures, but they were like when the movie was released. They're not easy to get now. But yeah, this movie, man. Let's see. So I got Miguel. While we're on Miguel, when he gets his arm cut off, it's a perfect use of camera angles to disguise the guy having his arm in his shirt. Because they definitely put Sarah between him and the camera. They do a really good job. This is a thing where a lot of really good effects people like Tom Savini get to actually direct the effects scenes if the director's nice enough to let him do it. And it makes a really big difference in the film when this happens. Because that sequence is great. I'd say maybe the cauterizing the wound doesn't look super great, but it's burning rubber. What are you going to do? Right.
It worked for me. I mean, I didn't even like look for the hiding his arm into his shirt because I just, was caught up in the moment,
Yeah.
man.
Well, see, like I've seen this movie so many times that I'm like analyzing it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
for sure. But I think that speaks to how strong like the characters are and the tension that's going on with this group. I think this is like, I mean, I've said it before. I think this is my favorite zombie film of all time, just because
Yeah.
I love like the dynamics of everything that's going on. You've got all of these people who kind of represent most of humanity, like you got the
Yeah.
militaristic assholes, you've got the scientists, you've got the people who are just like, man, we just want to be able to chill the fuck out and just enjoy life.
That's high praise for you, Chris, because I know how much you love Shaun of the Dead, but I mean that wouldn't exist without this movie.
Well,
so.
it's hard to like call Shaun of the Dead a purist zombie film when it is such a like metatextual zombie film. So I mean, Shaun of the Dead I might like it more than this movie just as a movie, but if you're just talking about like
makes you feel a lot better.
zombie films as a genre, I would probably go with Day of the Dead.
I mean, like, this movie's depressing as fuck, right? Like,
Yeah, I remember this as having a I guess we can talk about the ending for a minute. I remember this as having like a more positive ending, but I don't know. Is it? I think my wife did not think so.
I mean, they get to chill on the islands, if that's even.
But right before that, it like shows them getting towards the helicopter. She reaches the helicopter, and then there's a jump scare of a zombie grabbing her, and then it just like hard cuts, and she wakes up on the island.
So it's like, was that a dream, or
right? Is she dead, or is she dead,
Yeah.
and this is the afterlife?
I think
No, I think she made it there. I think it was just like a trauma, vision or something.
which she
I
has
think
throughout the
made it.
movie, because they do establish her
Yeah.
as having these kind of dreams. So I think we have to accept it
Yeah.
as one. If those other scenes weren't there,
So are you saying the island is a dream?
No,
No.
I'm saying her seeing that was a dream and she made it there.
Yeah.
Okay.
like everything up to that point really happened.
I switched on the commentary track for just the ending sequence to see if they would comment on that at all, and they did not. Romero just said, I think he just said like he wanted to end this movie with like a happy ending after like Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead, which I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I guess it's real then.
Because this is originally supposed to be the ending, which is also why some of the shit in Land of the Dead kind of contradicts established rules that are set in this, as far as who becomes zombies and who doesn't.
So we have to talk about a couple of the like gnarliest, I think, special effects scenes in this movie. Before we get to Rhodes' death scene, which is obviously the most iconic, there's one of his soldiers right before it gets a very similar death.
Oh yeah,
when
we
his,
got
like eyes are clawed out.
Yeah, we got the guy
Yeah.
getting his eyes cut out.
Clawed out, head pulled off.
There's the other beard guy that's not Nicotero that gets his head ripped off. That is pretty fucking great right before that too. And
You
that's
hear his vocal cords get shredded.
Yeah.
as he's
and that's
screaming.
like one of those remote control heads that's still like moving its mouth as he's being beheaded, and awesome.
Yeah, my wife was talking through that, and she was like, I guess that his head is like in a thing, and then his head came completely off, and she's like, oh, never mind. I guess it's a fake head.
Yeah, it looked great, and it's so. I gotta say, you gotta watch this in the highest definition you can. Do not watch it on Tubi. Tubi does it in standard definition.
Oh no.
I think it's a VHS rip. I think because Shout Factory does that sometimes. Like they'll put a version of a movie on there and they'll say it's the classic VHS version, and it's their excuse to just upload a shitty VHS rip.
I don't know where I watched it. Was it HBO?
I mean, I
maybe?
just bought it on Amazon in HD.
Oh,
Yeah,
I got the Shout Factory Blu-ray.
I need a 4K. I'm waiting.
Yeah, I'm sure they. Well, I don't know. We'll see. It seems like a good contender for 4K.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the Blu-ray is out of print or not. This was the first movie I ever saw at the New Beverly.
Ooh, nice.
And it was a
Whoa,
Halloween.
That's a good one.
I can't remember if
That's
it
a
was a
good one.
16 mil print or a 35 mil print. One of the two.
More often than not, they're showing 35 there.
So-
I mean, it's like rare when it's not.
There is
I
a
saw
4K.
16. I saw a 16 print of alligator there, which was pink as fuck.
There's a 4K of Dawn of the Dead, but it's a foreign version, and it's so it's zombie. It's not Dawn of the Dead.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, they put out that 4K edition. Arrow did like a few months ago, but that's out of print.
yeah. This foreign version they say has some transfer issues. Unfortunately,
No, you can still get the Scream Factory Blu-ray of Day of the Dead for like $14 on Amazon. So get it.
Apparently, Scream Factory's looking into it, but there's a lot of problems with the negative.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
So, back to Rhodes' death. So there's a funny story that Savini shared on that documentary I mentioned to you guys earlier. The Son of the Incredibly Strange Film.
This is
Show.
where you feel sorry for the
he's-
actor playing Rhodes.
Yeah. So these guts that were made with like a mishmash of things, but lots of like chicken parts and stuff. And so they were supposed to be like kept in a refrigerator, and apparently the refrigerator was unplugged for like 2 weeks. But they still had to use these guts. So like all the zombies had like their noses plugged when they were
Yeah,
filming a scene.
they're biting down on rancid pig intestines and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
But Joseph Pilato, who played Rhodes, could not have his nose plugged, and he's like beneath the floor here, and his head is just sticking out. So he had to muscle through it, and apparently he almost threw up after these takes.
yeah.
So his state of mind when he's saying choke on it was probably pretty close to reality.
But that's just such a great gag that's simple, right? Like, I mean, the body getting ripped apart isn't simple. That is like masterclass blood and guts special effects. But the fact that it's a dude in a hole with a fake body, that's like classic magician shit, man. It's awesome. It's awesome.
And it's really the coup de grace of the movie too. It's like the showstopper.
So I gotta say that we get introduced to some pretty crazy different walks of life zombies, and I just wanted to highlight some of those. We have a football player zombie. We have a graduation robe zombie. We have a zombie that looks like she's wearing a strawberry shortcake hat for some reason, or a little Bo Peep hat. We have a clown zombie. We have a
Gotta
bride.
have a clown zombie.
We have a golfer. We have a ballerina. It's like, you know, Dawn of the Dead gets a lot of love for the Hare Krishna zombie, but I think it gets a lot weirder in this one. And that zombie clown, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Inspired some Halloween costumes for years to come for people.
So, do you guys prefer like let's just talk about like the stock zombie makeup that Savini does here? How do you like this more, or do you compare it to like say Rick Baker's style, like we see in Thriller, or we see in Haunted Mansion was very different what he did there, but like which is more of like a graveyard ghoulish kind of zombie, which I think I tend to lean towards, even though I think like the specific zombie makeups like Dr. Chung are phenomenal. I don't know. And then you have Return to the Living Dead, which I think is more Rick Baker style, even though that wasn't Rick Baker.
Yeah, and then the sequels to Return of the Living Dead, which just everyone looks like shit.
I definitely prefer like this to Dawn of the Dead as far as like the makeup goes, because it definitely.
Well, yeah, they definitely.
They still kind of. They're still like Bub gets the best treatment. Like the more prominent characters get like the best makeup for sure, and then some of like the more like background crowd zombies, you can tell they just kind of painted them gray, put some blood on them. But yeah, it's a lot better than I feel like in Dawn of the Dead, where most of them are just kind of painted gray,
Yeah.
painted blue almost.
I kind of like a happy medium between Thriller and Dawn of the Dead, because if you're gonna paint them blue, make them like the most turquoisey, crazy blue that just pops, like Thriller did,
like mossy and stuff like that.
Yeah, and
and then Haunted Mansion is like skeleton like zombies, which are always great. What did they look like in the Ruben Galindo Jr. movies, like Cemetery of Terror and stuff that you
poorly made? They weren't the best zombies in those movies, unfortunately. He had Thriller vibes and everything but the actual zombie looks, let's put it that way. They were just people with some blood and guts makeup, more or less.
Yeah, and Midnight Hour was certainly like the Thriller.
So Ruben Galindo Jr. zombies look like Spooky's zombies.
Okay.
Yeah. Spooky's notorious for using off-the-shelf zombie masks in the zombie scene. Shit that you could buy at the store. Here's the thing. If you can get it in Walmart, it doesn't belong in your movie. Or Hana. Okay.
Shaun of the Dead might have some of my favorite zombie makeup of all time.
Some pretty good stuff.
It has some good ones in there. I need to rewatch Shaun of the Dead. It's actually been a minute since I've seen it.
Oh man, I'm actually reading You Got Blood on You, or You Got Red on You, the making of, which is pretty fun. There's been some like secrets from behind the scenes, like which department of the crew were totally against the movie while it was being made. They finally reveal in this book.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's one of
who
those.
The hell is this Edgar Wright guy? Who does he think he is making a movie?
It's one of the best things is that zombies are a lot like mutants in that if you're making a movie, you can individualize and customize them so much and make them exactly what you need for the scene or what pops. And I like it. I like the idea that you can have hordes of monsters and have them all be different, which is why I would rather see a movie like this with zombies with individual personalities than see some shit like World War Z where they're treated like ants and they're just in a big horde with no distinction.
Yeah, I want actual ant zombies. Like
I mean,
little buggy things, and they're
it
going,
is real life, man. That's that zombie fungus that attacks the ants and makes them commit suicide. It's real.
Oh, I know. I've been watching The Last of Us.
That's what it's based on. Are you caught up, Chris? Finale tomorrow.
No, we last one I saw was the girl and her friend in the mall episode.
Oh, that one is so good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's one of my favorites.
God,
That one
when
is
are they
definitely my
ending the
favorite.
season, Zach? Before the big time skip or what?
No, they're doing the full first game. The next one's the last one, which I'm not sure how they're going to cram everything into it because it's like shorter episodes. So, but I mean, they've all been great. So, I mean, I'm no doubt that
I'll probably
pull
finish
it off.
Poker Face first because that's like it's the one I'm chomping at the bits.
Poker face, poker face.
So
I've liked Poker Face. I haven't loved it, but I mean, it's kind of like you have to suspend disbelief with that show because like everywhere she stumbles upon, there's a murder.
Like Murder,
fun.
She Wrote.
it's fun.
Yeah, but it's
Columbo.
This is a terrible road trip. You can't go anywhere without someone being murdered.
Zach, Murder, She Wrote lasted for like 50 seasons, and Angela Lansbury was never once. I'm sorry, Jessica Fletcher was never once accused of being the murderer herself.
Yeah, and she lived in she stayed in one place. Like at least it's more plausible if you travel all over the country over the course of maybe like
She lived on
year or
Amity
two.
Island. God damn it! I mean, it was Cabot Cove, but it was Amity Island. Universal Studios reference there for those of you that have been on the tour. Cabot Cove, Amity Island, same sets.
Shout out to my buddy Kevin, who's a studio tour guide at Universal Studios.
Yes, thank you for the good times.
All right, now that tangent is
Wait, Zach, have you gotten to the Phil Tippett episode though?
the last one I saw was with the two women at the old folks home.
Okay, you gotta watch the Phil Tippett episode. It's basically Phil Tippett who made Mad God like last year. It's basically like him as a character on the show.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, it might be my favorite one.
Okay.
I forgot to log
intrigued.
this. Of course, I gave this movie 5 stars on Letterboxd. What say you guys?
Chris.
I gave it 4.5. Probably deserves 5 though, Casey, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I feel like
I'm just a stingy bastard.
Yeah, I feel like this is a masterpiece in horror essential viewing. The one that we're going to talk about next time, not so much, but I still think it's cool.
I gave it 4.5. Yeah, I mean, I think it's fantastic. It's just not one of my all-time favorite horror movies, but I mean, it is absolutely a classic, and for what it is, it's pretty much perfect. There's not much you can do to improve upon this.
I think it's my favorite of the original trilogy, which usually people put this as their least favorite, and I don't know why. Those people
Because they're
are
dicks.
lame.
Yeah.
Probably because it's the least fun. It's the least It's
Right.
definitely the most like downbeat of the 3.
It's to me, it's paced better than Dawn of the Dead, which I haven't seen in a minute. But I mean, Dawn has Ken Faree, which is great, and the mall setting is fun. But it's definitely a slower kind of paced, I think, film.
It's the
even
most
though-
professional too, and it's like really tight. It's like a tight 90 minutes.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, I feel like growing up a special effects nerd, this is like one of the like grail movies that you look at.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
Romero and Savini are just such a like unstoppable duo. There was another great story in Smoke and Mirrors where Savini, like the way he reintroduced himself to George Romero, because I think he was scouted by Romero, like when he did a lot of theater, and like they saw him in a play and they wanted to cast him in a movie or something, but it didn't end up happening. But like years later, I think after maybe Savini got let into a program or something, he introduced himself to Romero by like going into his office and like slitting his wrist like a prosthetic or something on his arm, and started bleeding. And he's like, "Hey, remember me, Tom Savini?" And they like immediately, I think, like gave him a job.
Says absolutely everything about Tommy Jarvis
Yeah.
being based on Tom Savini that you need to know.
That's like
yeah.
that's a great risk story. It's just like you're either gonna get a job or you're gonna get thrown out of the building.
Yeah, just watch Smoke and Mirrors. You're gonna come up to the conclusion that just Tom Savini is cooler than everybody.
That's
just the way it is.
actually a cut. Well, it's a scene for the TV version of Friday the 13th Part 4 where he puts his hand in a guillotine and chops it off the second he meets hunky guy that likes his sister. I forget his name.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not just showing him masks; he shows him that. Which is
I mean,
funny.
like, yeah, he's like a really good stunt performer too. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you watch like From Dusk Till Dawn, you can see that this guy can fucking move. But like, he's a very accomplished, just triple, quadruple threat.
Very,
you know,
very
individual,
nice
so-
man. Does a lot of conventions. Really cool guy. I've met him. I've gotten my picture with him, and I got him to sign a picture of him doing the makeup on the original Jason, Kid Jason.
And I didn't even realize that he doesn't really do makeups anymore just because his hands, like,
Yeah.
it hurts too much for him to do it. He just sort of supervises things. Yeah, I cannot recommend Day of the Dead enough. I mean, we're far from the first podcast to talk about Day of the Dead, but hopefully you enjoyed our thoughts and feelings and tidbits. And so, yeah, so that was the first entry here in Tom Savini Month. We'll be sticking with the zombie theme, and I'll just leave it at that. But if you know we're sticking with Tom Savini, obviously, you can probably guess what's coming next.
But it's not Dawn of the Dead.
No, it's not Dawn of the Dead. We are moving forward in time.
More
But
unconventional
we're gonna
choice.
stick with Romero a little bit because Zach and I put in some time this morning on a game that is very, very well. Okay, it was originally based on Romero. I would say that these are more like Jess Franco zombies in these movies a little bit. Resident Evil 4 demo.
If you're a gamer, you'll know that there's a Resident Evil 4 remake coming out. The original Resident Evil 4, one of my all-time favorite games. It's a very classic, sort of different spin on the zombie
Zach,
genre. It follows, yeah,
What'd you play it on?
PS5.
No, I mean the original.
Oh, GameCube. I think. Was it GameCube or PS2?
Okay, so
actually, it might have been PS2.
So
Maybe
okay,
PS2,
everyone
I'm not
says
sure.
GameCube or PS2, but there was a Wii version, and it kicked fucking ass because you would aim your gun with the Wiimote, and you could get headshots
yeah.
like fucking crazy. It was awesome. And you had to do waggle controls to chop the rope when the sea monster grabs you and drags you under.
Yeah, I don't know if I played the Wii one, and I was wondering if they were going to introduce any motion controls because the PS5 can do some motion like aiming. I think. The
Yeah,
DualShock.
it's not
I don't
great
know.
though.
Or the DualSense, I should say.
I would hope that they don't. But
I played GoldenEye on N64 yesterday.
What?
Yeah, I've been using my Game Shark. I finally got the paintball mode to work. Sometimes
Nice.
not all of the modes work. I don't know why. And I found out you have to actually beat the game first to get all the levels, which kind of sucks.
Before we get back to our thoughts on RE4 remake demo, Chris, I forgot to ask you: did you wear your Scream mask to the screening that you went to?
No! What do you think I am,
Ah,
dumb?
you didn't wear
You
it.
think I'm a moron?
You gotta do it, man. You
They
gotta
wouldn't
bring
let-
out the ghost face.
They wouldn't let me in the building.
Okay,
tried
then wear
that.
like a Jason. You should have worn a Jason mask.
You think I want everyone to freak out and run away like there's about to be a mass shooting up in there?
Oh, I guess that's
the stuff works differently
That's
in
fair.
Arkansas, Zach. California, no one would bat an eye.
I mean, we've had a lot of terrible shootings out here. Gun control, people.
I was gonna
Jesus
say the
Christ.
theater I saw
Okay.
this in already has like enough shootings at it.
Yeah. Anyway, so the RE4 demo. So yeah, Chris, the basic plot of this is you're like a special agent or whatever and been tasked to go into this village and save the president's daughter. And this village has been like taken over by like cult villagers and zombies and shit like that. And so you go into this village. I was really, I dug the graphics. I mean, compared to the original, it's a really great, it's like a full overhaul. It's not an upscale.
Yeah.
Like it, and the original looked really good at the time. So, I mean, just a really foreboding sense of atmosphere. You're going through these kind
I
of
would
swampy
say it's
marsh
a
areas
step
and-
below Resident Evil Village, which Zach hasn't played yet.
I played 7. Yeah. And so, but I mean, you're going through dilapidated villages. Control's great. I reminded of how like short you are in ammo and supplies in that game, and that like in the very like limited 20-minute demo, it's very apparent that you need to use your ammo wisely.
Oh, did you figure out crafting the rest of the ammo from the gunpowder though? You can do that.
No, I did not. I was kind of rushing through it because I played it right before we started recording this morning. So
Yeah, it's called the Chainsaw Demo. So those of you that have played Resident Evil
Yeah.
Village, Resident Evil 4, know what to expect. Because the Chainsaw Man was a big deal in that game. In fact, they had a fucking chainsaw controller for the game.
I was very happy to see that they kept in Leon's awesome spin kick move, which I used as much as I could.
Also, Leon reacts like a normal person would now. Like, what the fuck? Pretty quickly into the town.
Yeah.
They do play their hands a little early as far as showing kind of the Lovecraftian shit that happens with the zombies, because you literally see it on the first zombie. So you're not really left wondering what the T virus is doing to them, or whatever version of the virus it is in this game. Also, the villagers swear a lot less in this one, because I feel like in the original they were saying mierda like every 5 seconds. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I've never played the Resident Evil games for the story, so to speak. I mean, I did have fun with what I played of 7, and then I never finished it because I got stuck.
You watched the movies for the story.
You don't want to do that. Yeah.
That's a whole other thing. You watch it for Mila Jovovich, and then no, not anymore. But
Jovovich.
Anyway, any other thoughts on the Resident Evil 4
Fuck
remake
yeah,
demo?
dude.
'Cause it's fantastic.
It's free. Download it, especially if you're on a current gen system. I can't vouch for last gen shit, okay? But it looks good. I wouldn't say it looks great. I'd say Village looks great. This looks good.
It looks great to me. Casey is just a stickler on graphics.
Well, I'm sorry I paid $500
there's-
for the systems.
There's no pleasing him. It looks good. I mean,
Oh
it looks
no,
better
Village,
than anything on
Village pleased the
PS4.
shit out of me. I thought that was the best looking PS5 game I'd ever played.
Yeah.
And I was
So this comes out. Go ahead.
we're talking the difference between third person and first person though too.
Yeah. So Resident Evil 4 Remake comes out March 24th. So
I gotta say though
that in
that
your calendars,
Leon's hair is so luscious and movable. They
Mhm.
really did good hair technology on Leon. Like it moves great. It's the best hair since Tomb Raider in a video game. It's important, man. Hair usually sucks in games. It looks really good here.
It looks good. All right, guys. So that was our episode. Let's plug our social media here. Chris,
Wait,
you got
nothing-
a lot of stuff to plug. my
Nothing
friend.
else on Scream 6?
Oh,
I guess
sure.
you
Okay.
guys didn't see it, so you can give a shit.
We haven't seen it. So what were your thoughts on Scream 6, Chris? Let's
I
circle
liked it.
back to that. I mean, how was it compared to Scream 5?
Well, if you've seen Scream 5, you know that there's a character that is not going to be in Scream 6 that I desperately miss.
Yeah.
Richie. So
Isn't this
I don't think
movie
it was
called
as-
Screevy?
No, the last one was called 5 Cream. This was just Scream 6. So I don't think it was as funny as the previous Scream. And it kind of is like coasting like on the same wave of like requels and what are the rules of the sequel to the requel essentially. There's a lot of things that will maybe echo from the previous movies. I mean, at this point, it's kind of if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Kind of a formula with Scream. You know what you're gonna get going into this. It had some like more, I think, intense sequences than the last one. Like I don't think there was like a lot of like good suspense maybe in Scream 5. This one definitely has like a sequence. They definitely play on the fact that in New York City, apartments are small and cramped. And there's like you're trying to run away, and there's like a fucking wall in your way everywhere you go, every 5 feet.
So the majority of the film is set in New York City.
Oh, the whole thing is, yeah.
Okay.
It is Ghostface takes Manhattan, for sure.
And is the without spoilers, is the ghost face reveal satisfactory?
It was definitely satisfactory after I think, and I had this problem with the last Scream when you kind of like find out the motivations. It's kind of just like, okay. Like, does anyone remember the motivations of the killer from Scream 5? I didn't. And then I rewatched Scream 5 and I was like, oh, that was it? Okay. It's nothing you hadn't seen before. I'll say that.
But really, that's kind of the thing with Scream. I mean, none of them. I mean, maybe outside of the first one.
Yeah, the fun is not why. The fun is just who. Who is it? Who done it? Trying to figure it out. Trying to guess it. Subverting some expectations.
I'll probably try and see it tomorrow. I need to go to the theaters. I should have gone to see Avatar 2 at some point, just because I know I missed Babylon. I'll watch that at home. But
I guess I'll say this, and because I don't want people's hopes to get caught up. There's like a brief second where they tease that maybe a killer from the previous movie is not dead, and that it could, like, there could be a return, and that made me sit up and get excited more than anything. Doesn't end up happening in this movie.
Okay, I mean, I can only think of one person who that could be, and that would be very excited if that is true.
Okay, off mic.
I mean, I'd be happy.
Off mic, you'll have to tell me who you think it is.
Okay, I mean, just someone that was not necessarily, I would say, definitively killed off in one of the movies. That'd be my guess, but I might be dead wrong on that. Okay. So that is our episode. Casey, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me at Lucha Gringo on Twitter and Letterboxd and PlayStation Network. Play the new season of Fortnite with me. It's all Japanese and cool.
Okay. Kris, where can they find you? And I want you to plug everything you've been doing on your YouTube channel, because you got some cool stuff there, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, you can find me at Twitter and Letterboxd at Kris Pistol. You can also find me at YouTube at Kris Watches Movies. Working on some new cinema history type content. Been happy with it so far. It's been fun. I'm enjoying making it. So yeah, definitely gonna keep doing that.
You're doing like year by year.
I am. I'm insane.
You're in like
nothing. I don't like to start things
right?
unless it's daunting. Yeah.
How many are you planning to churn out like throughout the course of the rest of the year?
Man, I don't know. I didn't know how long it would take me to make the first two, and I think I did the first two in like 1 month. So hopefully I'll keep that pace.
How long are they about each so
like
far?
6 minutes. They'll definitely get longer.
That's cool.
Because right now we're just talking about short films, so they'll definitely get longer as we get into once feature length films become a thing.
Yeah.
In like 1927. Not 1927. What am I thinking of? 1917.
And you're still doing Can You Hear the Pod tonight, right?
We are. We've kind of been on hiatus a little bit. We like to take hiatuses, as you can imagine, but.
Yeah, but you've done several since you last plugged it on here, so please plug.
Oh, what episodes are we on now? Have you done Bride of Boogity yet?
Haven't done Bride of Boogity. We're sticking with the feature animated films. So we let's see. We did a Goofy movie. What was the last one we did?
Yes.
Can You Hear the Pod tonight? What was the last one we did?
Lots of Goofy movie references.
We had you on and did the Aristocrats. The Aristocats.
Yeah, but you've done like at least 3 since then. 3 or 4.
Oh, yeah. Aladdin was the last one we did.
Okay, so Aladdin, a Goofy movie. So is that on your same base YouTube channel?
Yeah, that is still on at Kris Watches Movies. You can check that out.
Okay.
I heard there's a few Goofy movie Easter eggs in the queue of the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway ride. New ride.
Oh, that's great. I need to check that out. I need to get to Disneyland and Universal and check out Super Mario
more representation at Disneyland.
World. Super Nintendo World. Awesome. I will leave links to Kris's History of Cinema, his latest one, or maybe his first one, as well as the latest episode of Can You Hear the Pod tonight. And make sure to follow us on all our channels at Instagram at AMP Horror, as well as Twitter under the same thing, and YouTube, AMP Horror. Subscribe to us there. Subscribe to us on any streaming platform you find us. Please, if you feel so inclined, leave us a nice review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. That would really help us out. We would super appreciate it. And you can follow me as well on Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd at Earth2Zach, Earth the number 2, Zach, Z-A-K. And yeah, stay tuned. We will have another episode in this Tom Savini month coming out by the end of March. Sorry that it's taken a little longer for all this to come out. Shortly after we finished recording, as I was getting over another cold, I got the stomach flu, and that kind of just threw me on my ass.
Diarrhea of the Dead.
It was more projectile than that, but yes.
Oh, so you roads did.
It was.
I've got to pitch Diarrhea of the Dead to somebody.
Throwing up is not fun, everybody.
No.
But Things are going good. We're on the up and up. We got new business cards, which you cannot see because this is not a video podcast, but they look pretty much like our old ones, but better.
Yeah, it still looks like he's giving the middle finger from here, but it catches the attention.
Adding this right now because I didn't realize that Chris's birthday is on Tuesday, so happy birthday, Chris.
Oh my God.
Happy birthday!
You didn't
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Of course. Okay.
Please stop.
All right, end of recording.